thank you. That's great perspective and insider's view of, I guess, how do you get an LNG project going. So a couple of things. So the first thing that struck to me is why the decision to stick build. Pretty much nobody is doing that in capital projects these days. I mean, I recognize that it gives you the creation of local jobs and all of that is definitely an advantage, right, in terms of the license to operate and all of that stuff. Yeah. But are there other operational drivers or other benefits from that?
There are. Of course, Golden Pass LNG's 3 trains really represents trains 15, 16, and 17 of the QatarEnergy ExxonMobil partnership in terms of developing LNG throughout the world. So we leveraged the designs that we already had, from building these LNG trains in Qatar. I was working in Qatar at the time, but I can tell you, I was the voice in the room that pushed this for jobs. We did have a modular construction option. So we did put that out to bid, we did engineer it. But at that point in time, with as many projects as there were trying to promote their projects, I felt that the jobs component was critical. We have an excellent relationship in our community, and we wanted to keep that. So I'm not going to knock the developers of the modular concept. I think those guys have clearly shown that they've got something to talk about there. The ability, their construction costs are very competitive, but it's their timeline that is really competitive. They can get through that construction period much quicker. But we wanted to do it right, and so we went with the jobs.
Yeah. So it's interesting. We do a lot of work or have conversations, if you will, with project developers in the LNG space, right? I mean, and with every wave, right, we see a lot of people having conversations with us. Very few of them move to like commission a study with us, but that's the nature of project development. But what a lot of people will ask, hey, what do you think? Is this a good time to build an LNG project? And increasingly, I'm telling them, almost at the risk of offending them, that the best time to build an LNG project was 10 years ago. And I think you alluded to this a little bit, but how do you see the current crop of LNG project developers? Who do you think is likely to win? Or if you don't want to pick specific players, what are some of the criteria that you think will determine who's going to win?
Yeah, so there's always been this common parlor game, and it's trying to understand who's the next most likely project to come online. It's been a feature of conferences for 10 years or more. The winners that I see today are those that have solid EPC contracts, recently priced, that and right now what's selling LNG is, remember I talked about the marketers going first. The marketers that were selling their LNG based on price. There's a few out there that are just trying to have the lowest capacity charge possible. Those are the guys who got to the front of the line the fastest. Okay, but once they won the marketing race, then they realized that their challenge is the financing, the EPC. Could they actually put LNG on the water for the price they said that they did? So you have that dynamic playing out. But if I were a buyer out there today, I would look at my developer and say, does this company have the staying power? Can these guys stick through it, through challenging EPC, through challenging construction environments? Will they have the equity to cover a hurricane that might hit their facility? When we were developing the LNG import project in 2009, we had 16 feet of water went through our plant for Hurricane Ike. That completely devastated our construction in progress. Does your partner have the staying power, the commitment, and the wherewithal to be a partner for 20 years. We at Golden Pass have sold all of our LNG for the next 25 years. I'm 100% sold out. And most other LNG facilities are going to want similar models. They're going to want to pre-sell everything. So I think Sempra with Port Arthur LNG might be an interesting one to talk to, because they got the strength of that utility behind them. Next decade, I think has got some real good momentum behind them. They're trying to build an LNG facility in Brownsville, Port Arthur, in the Brownsville area. And for those of you who don't know, Port Arthur LNG is actually about a mile away from this LNG facility. So we're about a mile away from Port Arthur LNG, and if you hit a golf ball across the water, you'll hit the Cheniere LNG facilities. So that's a lot of LNG in that concentrated area, which also presents its own challenges. Now, I would love to see Lake Charles. I'm a big fan of Amy Chen, because I think she's got a brownfield facility that should have the advantage of having a leg up. So I'd love to see her get up off the ground. And I'm generally supportive of all of these LNG projects.
Most of these LNG projects are all the traditional liquefaction tolling cost model. Do you see a full-fledged equity model where you take equity in the gas? Do you see that kind of a project moving forward? Or the buyer universe is not quite, they have pegged the US LNG supply segment as one where they are most comfortable paying that tolling liquefaction fee?
So in the LNG world, you can have a tolling model, which is Freeport and Cameron, and you can have a merchant model, is what we call it, and that's like Cheniere and Golden Pass. And the merchant model means that the company, the LNG facility, is responsible for going out there and sourcing the gas, and the buyer just gets to pick up his LNG FOB on the water. It's just really easy on the buyer. And then the last model is that of an integrated model. We are kind of integrated, but I have a Chinese wall between ourselves here in the US and our offshore affiliate. So the integrated model is ideal. There's only one company that's promoting that right now, and that's Tellurian. But it is challenging. I don't think you have to do an integrated model in the US, because if you're a producer, any producer should be able to sell its gas at the highest price that it can get. And if you're a buyer of gas, you should try to buy the gas at the lowest price that you can get. Now, if the two meet, that's fine and dandy, but it shouldn't be a prerequisite. I think you're just adding to the equity requirements of your facility. So it'd be interesting to see if Tellurian stays with its integrated model, or if they decide to pivot out and do something more traditional. They've changed their business model a few times. So I wouldn't be surprised if they continue to figure out what it takes. They have a really strong management team. So
So Jeff, I was a bit intrigued when you said that the decision on, or the criteria to decide or to kind of rank or prioritize projects that will go forward is based on who has a firm EPC contract. But I think your comments, what I think they were indicating is that the attractiveness of a project here in the US to potential counterparties who are signing these sales and purchase agreements is going to be high if they have confidence that these guys have the EPC part figured out.
Yeah, and it's not just having a strong turnkey, fully wrapped EPC contract that's important. Is that EPC contract credible, achievable? Or is it a risky endeavor?
Yeah.
Is it? There's only so many companies here that can build an LNG facility. You're talking about Bechtel, maybe a Chiyoda, CB&I, McDermott combo, which is what we did. Kiewit. There's only a handful.
Yeah.
So they, and no matter who they are, they have to contact the same welders. They're going to partner with Zachary and other, manpower providers. But so is that EPC contract current, and is it strong enough to withstand the challenges that inevitably emerge?
Yeah. How? So I mean, in terms of inflation, supply chain. I mean, you guys literally were in the midst of all of that. I guess how has all of that impacted?
We were fortunate in that we've been under construction since 2019. We decided early on to de-risk a lot of the supply chain aspects. So it's I was talking to one of your economists earlier. Your DCF guys would hate this, where your modelers are going to say, if you front load all that capex and buy everything and have it sitting on the ground, that's horrible for your IRR. But in our case, we decided to do that just to kind of de-risk the supply chain. But by doing that, we basically dodged the inflation issues. What we didn't dodge was, do you remember a couple of years ago, or during the COVID times, where shipping costs were just through the roof? Container costs to move everything around. The shipping costs really surprised us, surprised our EPC contractor. And so that came out there too, because a lot of that cargo was coming in when container prices were through the roof. So, but we were able to persevere that. We were right in the middle of COVID. We figured that out. We remain on schedule, although COVID and some of those supply chain issues did take a bite out of some of our buffer and contingency. But we still think we can manage this. So for us, it's okay. The big question for the next guy is, how persistent is the current inflationary environment? Is there, are we actually going to revert back to something a little more normal, or is this the new normal?
It feels to me that you guys leverage the strengths and the competencies of your two big parents very effectively, right? I mean, not many people can carry that kind of a model where they say that we're going to front load all the capex or all the equipment purchases and all of that.
When I looked at the two partners, Qatar Energy and ExxonMobil, and Qatar Energy could buy 3 ExxonMobils if they wanted to. That was something that we knew we had to leverage. We had to leverage the strength of these partners. We weren't afraid to be different. And as a result, we think that my intention is to build the best LNG facility in the US. And because we are selling to ourselves, we're integrated in a portfolio, we evaluate business decisions differently. So if there's a good idea that comes to the table, we can look at that and say, okay, that's a good idea. That's a value accretive idea. Let's figure out how to make it happen. Whereas if you bring that same idea to a merchant facility or a tolling facility, the first question that the management is going to have is, who does that value accrue to? Is it me or to my customers? Why would I go spend $200 million to do something if I don't get a corresponding return? So having to debate that is much more challenging for them. Whereas for us, we're always engaged in those ideas on how we can be flexible and efficient. We intend to be the most efficient LNG export facility in the U.S. So it's a little bit different for us. We continue to leverage this.
There's a lot more degrees of freedom that you have that allow you to kind of focus on, how do you maximize value over the long term, even if there's a short term.
Yes.
Yeah. How is the Golden Pass LNG structured operationally on a day-to-day basis? Like, is it a bunch of secondments from each of these companies? I'm curious, just how are things structured?
We are a 98% direct hire organization. So we are a company, a self-sufficient company. We do have a handful of secondees. Mostly we leverage Exxon's engineering expertise. So we were able to just contract a lot of our engineering and owners engineering efforts to our shareholders. But I could have contracted with Worley Parson or anyone else. So it's an individual company that makes the best decisions for itself. But it is not a pure extension of Qatar-Energy or Exxon.
Okay. And commercial arrangements, selling the LNG and all that, is that one partner that's?
It used to be one partner. At one time, again, we were trying to do it the optimal way. Was we said, let's sell all of our LNG, 100%, to one entity that we created, and we called it Ocean LNG, and that entity will be 70-30 between Qatar-Energy and Exxon. And the reason why we wanted 70-30 all the way through is I wanted all of those decisions, to be easy. It's a 70-30 value chain all the way through, so that we can always make the right decisions. What we found over time was having a marketing entity that's 70-30, that is also a 70-30 JV, might leave some value on the table for the two entities, because Qatar has access to 100 ships. Exxon has Papua New Guinea as a 100% owned facility, for instance. They have an LNG project in Papua New Guinea. And it's like, maybe Exxon wants to play the spread on geography and fulfill a commitment to Europe, either from Golden Pass or from Papua New Guinea. So the ability to allow each partner to optimize their own portfolio individually turned out to be the right solution. So we just recently converted out to a 70-30 offtake agreement between Qatar-Energy and Exxon.
Okay. So from a portfolio point of view, actually Golden Pass LNG is going to significantly expand the flexibility of the asset portfolio that both of these players have, right?
Yeah. This is like an extension. So Qatar can now sell LNG to anybody sourced from either the U.S. or Ras Laffan, and so will Exxon. So it's true geographic diversity, and just kind of expands your portfolio.
And is all the volume being sold through sales and long-term agreements, or is some of it going to end up in the spot market or on a portfolio basis?
So we as Golden Pass sold 100% of our volumes to Exxon and Qatar for 25 years. And 100% for us means 100%. Well, what you'll find with other facilities is 100% of their contract, but if they make any extra, they'll put that in the spot market. That's more common. We didn't do that, because we didn't want to create a conflict between our marketing and their marketing. So 100% means 100%. But what Exxon or Qatar decides to do in terms of marketing that LNG to the end user is their own decision. None of our LNG at this point is committed to end users.
Okay.
So it is all available to the spot market, which is a beautiful position to be in today's world. But again, you're talking about adding an extra 18 million tons to Qatar's 100 million ton, 120 million ton portfolio, so they can balance how much unsold capacity they want versus how much fully committed that they need.